So a hypothetical one for you, Daryl. If a product owner of a piece of learning tells you that that learning hasn't worked, people's behaviour hasn't changed, nothing new has been adopted, what do you do?
Well, it's critical you evaluate the training or the piece of learning to find out whether there are some obvious reasons why it didn't produce the desired outcomes. Speak to those who have undertaken the learning, find out their feedback, why they think no change has happened as a result. If you're able to, also speak to those people who didn't engage and find out why they didn't perhaps engage. But that might not necessarily tell you the answer, because it might not actually be the approach that didn't work. It might be around the communication or the implementation around that training and learning. Was it clear to people what it was about? Were goals explained? Was it really seen as learning that was needed for that organisation? If not, perhaps it hadn't been communicated appropriately, because there needs to be, I think, a convincing rationale and motivation for people to want to see the need for the change, see the need for the learning. And so part of it may well be around the implementation issues. It might be that the leaders didn't walk the walk. Did they do the learning themselves? Are they practicing the outcomes that they want to see everybody else deliver on? So leading by example, I think, can really generate meaningful and real results. You don't want to look at your leaders and go, well, they're not doing it, so why am I?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They don't demonstrate that behaviour, so why am I meant to? So reflecting on whether the approach used was the issue, considering, I suppose, tackling the learning in a different way might be an option. So that, because if you then just repeat the same approach to the same audience, the reaction will be even more negative. Here we go again. We're going to do this again. It didn't work the first time, so why are we bothering?
I think that's the definition of insanity, isn't it? To do the same thing and expect a different result.
Absolutely. Whereas if you perhaps change that learning in it and deliver it in a slightly different way, that whole drip approach to achieving some more sustained results might be the way forward. So yes, the goal is still the same, but you've come at it from a different perspective. Or build that into the original plan of making sure that you've got different iterations, so that if it didn't work the first time, there's always, that there's going to be another opportunity. And then maybe getting a few particular learners on board, get them to be the advocates, role models for the next iteration of whatever you're putting falling. And I think you can then create more of a snowballing approach to things. But I suppose my main point is that don't be afraid of making a change, but do it as a result of evaluating to find out really what was the reason why something didn't work. Otherwise, you may be shooting from the hip, making a change, and actually that's not going to lead to great outcomes either. And then you're just gradually annoying people much, much more. So I think evaluation is my key.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a couple of really interesting points there, and the ones that really resonated with me. Firstly, sometimes you need to identify key people, advocates for something, and they don't need to be management in a management position. I remember when I was working in schools, there were absolutely individuals within staff who were influential, and if they really supported something and advocated for it, then it carried real weight to it. And people sat up and took notice, and they went along for the ride. So I think that's a really interesting point. Who are the advocates that you can target in an organisation to kind of promote a piece of learning?
Yeah, and some of those people might actually be some of those folks that colleagues think are some of the most difficult or reticent of change.
Yeah, definitely.
You can get one of those on board.
Yeah, 100%.
Create huge sort of outflow to the rest of the staff that sits around them.
Yep, 100%. And the other thing was when you mentioned, just that implementation. So if something, because often I'd imagine a piece of learning just shows up in someone's email, like there's a link or there's a reminder, or it just shows up on their dashboard if they've got some sort of dashboard in their learning management system, without any sort of context and without any sort of awareness that it's coming or understanding of why it's coming. And so I think there's that body of work or that piece of work that comes before a piece of learning if you really want it to have good uptake and to connect with people, there's that kind of context that needs to be provided to them beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just the way that you communicate as a leader as well. So even if an email does come into the email box, put some context in there. Tell them why it's important, not just say, this is health and safety training. You all know you have to do the health and
it must be done by close of business this time. Yeah.
Demonstrate why that's important, what change perhaps you're putting in that learning. I think that's really important.
Look, thanks very much for chatting to us today, Daryl. It's been really interesting conversation around learning and development, higher education, the digital landscape, and really appreciate your time. So thank you.
I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's been, as you say, really interesting to explore some of those different issues with the future of education and particularly digital learning.
Great, thanks.